Good morning, and I'm going to say good morning to Vanita straight out. Vanita, good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Welcome to another morning full of glitches and
We
technical.
hopefully we sorted it out, so it'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. This morning, I'm talking to you guys down all the way from One Tree Point. This is up near Whangarei. So I see the internet down here is also a bit sparse. So sometimes it comes, sometimes it goes. But let's try our best. Vanita, there's been a few changes.
How many changes so far, Jan? 37. I worked that out. 10th month, 3.7 on average every month is what we're looking at for immigration.
That's me. So you're talking about a change a week.
I don't know. Oh, well, yes, pretty much. Sorry. I'm not very good at math. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. About a change a week. So it's quite interesting. It's as if they don't have a real future plan.
Look, there is a future plan, and in fact, last week, Friday, we had our annual immigration conference, and we were very privileged to have staff from Immigration New Zealand, from MB. Also, we had a few professors present. We had economists. We had some lawyers present us, as well as the minister present us. So that was really good. So, look, the message was clear and consistent throughout the whole day at the presentation, or the conference, I should say. They definitely, for one, okay, for those people that are out there that have been looking for jobs, even onshore looking for jobs and not being successful, yes, the market is quite tough at the moment. We are in an economic recession. Last year it was predicted that we'll be moving out of it, and no, it's probably worsened. If you've seen yesterday as well, the minister put out an article, or she spoke to Radio New Zealand and so on. And what she said was, since the accredited employer scheme that's come through, there's about 20,000, I don't know where they got the number from, New Zealanders and residents of New Zealand unemployed. And what she's doing is she's cracking quite hard on accredited employers because they're not making enough efforts to employ New Zealanders.
I hear what you say. But also remember there's a part of let's use the PC. There's a part of us that's unemployable.
Yes, correct. That is correct, because employers do try. And I mean, the thing is, Shem and I were discussing this yesterday. If you get somebody in there, a New Zealander, but they don't show up to work, that's the problems that employers really face. They don't show up to work. They're either on drugs. They can't. I shouldn't say that. They can't pass the drug and alcohol tests or mandatory tests that's required for certain types of roles and so on. So that those people become unemployable. And I suppose those people don't even want to be employed. And the government, if you've seen, Jan, and people obviously not in New Zealand may not know, they're cracking down and they're cutting down on benefits to people that are employable but are sitting on the benefit and so on.
Yeah.
So this is just an issue, an ongoing issue, but it's obviously becoming worse and worse, because there was quite a bit of handout given, and now those handouts are taken away. So that's where that issue comes in. But accredited employers sit in this position where they need staff, they need people to be able to work, they need skilled people to be, or people with skills to be able to work, I should say. And sometimes it's very difficult to get the right people into that role or that organization, because they want to keep these people. They don't want to be firing these people and so on, because it is a process when you go through the immigration law procedure and getting rid of somebody. Pretty much, it's quite a tough process. So look, it's always going to be that issue. So from the conference, what was echoed was that New Zealand does not have a good narrative when it comes to migrant workers. And they did say migrants in other countries is seen as refugees, okay? Compared to Australia, there's quite a positive narrative where they're saying that they want foreign workers coming in because they stimulate the economy. They want to work, they they contribute to the economy in terms of taxes and so on. The more taxes people pay, the more spend people or the country has. Now, when you cut down on that migration, you are going to reduce that spend. And that's pretty much what's happening right now. We have reduced migration because of unemployment, because we're saying we need New Zealanders in jobs. So it's always that catch that New Zealand is stuck in, and they do need to change the narrative on foreign workers, pretty much.
The one problem I've got with having people not employable, if that's the right thing.
Yes.
Myself as an employer, for me to go through the whole process of getting somebody from South Africa, the UK, or wherever, and then only starting in the future, while I need somebody now. I mean, it shows me there is a big lack still of how can I say, people needed on the island. And the jobs is there, but they're trying to crack down on outside help.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, accredited employers are now jumping. Look, the process is a lot faster. Job checks have been approved really quickly, some within hours. Accredited employer work visas itself has been approved quite quickly as well. So it's quite a fast, streamlined process right now. However, employers need to show, for instance, that they need those people, and they need to tell immigration why they need those people. Apart from going through the advertising of 14 days as a minimum and so on, they need to show in their org chart that they legitimately have the need for those people. And this is where currently those people that have accredited employer work visas in process, immigration are coming back to either the advisor or the people that are doing the DIY application saying, we don't believe that your work experience is legitimate. You need to verify this to us. And this is where a lot of people are sitting with saying, we cannot verify your work experience. And
how do I verify my work experience?
So the issue always comes in is if you're self-employed like you, Jan, you need to be able to show that you work in the business. And sometimes if you manage in the business, you're not necessarily working in the business. You have people working in the business, right? So this is where, that issue comes in. And how do you verify? Probably through tax records, through your accountant, your experience and so on. You've got to sort of become really, innovative about showing verifiable work experience. And some countries really, they have problems doing this because sometimes their cash, that economy may not necessarily rely on electronic verifiable information. It's more a cash economy. And this is where people are getting caught out in that regard. So bear in mind that that's the issue. But coming back to the conference and what's coming through, okay? So there's been 2 new pathways that have been looked at or announced by Immigration New Zealand, which is coming through next year for residents. And those pathways—
When next year? Sorry for chipping in. When next year?
So they're talking about August next year. And the question was asked, why can't we have that sooner? And the minister said, I would love to have things sooner, but the immigration system does not allow for it. Plus, there's policymakers that need to actually go through the process of being able to write all this in policy and be able to, when the policy comes out as well, you don't want patchwork in there because they've got things wrong, right? So it's got to be a sound policy. So there's a lot of work going on in the background, but we do know that it's not fast enough. People want something fast enough. So the 2 new pathways, and it looks like, the minister's always been passionate about it, even before she became minister. Okay. She's always been saying, I should say, that trades and technicians is what we need. They don't hold degrees, and we know that, okay? But there needs to be a pathway. So she's very passionate about having those trades and technicians have a pathway to residence. That pathway is going to be a minimum qualification of an NZQA level 4 recognized qualification. Okay. So for those people that are listening, a lot of them have work experience and not necessarily the level 4 qualification. Now, I don't know how that's going to pan out because they need to work with NZQA to see how NZQA is going to assess these. So that is the work that's going on in the background. Okay, so
So
with
a mechanic and a carpenter and these type of guys can also get that qualification or not really?
well, the thing is with carpenters, for example, they need registration in New Zealand, so it's probably not the right a qualification to look at. But let's just take, for instance, a refrigeration mechanic, for instance. Okay, they may have a qualification from South Africa, but it needs to be equivalent to the NZQA level 4 in New Zealand. Now, that's all the work that's going on to see how they're going to recognize that those qualifications, to say minimum level 4, yes, it's recognized by NZQA, and then you need 18 months of work experience. So they shortened that work experience in New Zealand to say, okay, you need 18 months of work experience. Once you get that, you have the NZQA level 4, you can apply for residence. That's one pathway that they're looking at. And the other
that's
pathway,
not bad one. That's a year and a half.
yes, exactly. So that's why they're saying fast track. And we know that Winston Peters from New Zealand First has said, no, this is actually going to mean that we are preparing people to leave, and we're getting them in, we're doing all the hard work, and they're going to leave to Australia. So
that was my point as well. A year and a half and then 5 years Australia.
Yes, but you know what? Sometimes people may come in and they may be working toward their qualification. So those people may actually be here 3 years before they even apply for residence, then another 5 years for citizenship. So 8 years of contribution to the economy. I mean, really, we're not really getting rid of those people straight away the moment they get residence. They are.
I was thinking the other day, and I thought, why isn't there a law? And I know some people may say yes, some people may say no, but why isn't there a law stating if you become a New Zealand citizen that you have to stay here for at least 2 years to vest the citizenship or stuff like that? Because that'll give us another 2 years with doctors and nurses and these type of people.
The thing is, though, Jan, I think the misconception is that when you get New Zealand residence, okay, you have to be in the country 2 years before you get permanent residence, okay, which means that permanent residence doesn't expire, but the residence visa expires with regards to travel conditions, okay? So 2 years residence, and you apply for permanent residence. But from the date of residence, you're counting 5 years for citizenship, okay? A lot of people feel that once they get New Zealand residence, they can go to Australia, or even when they get permanent residence. The thing is, if you, example, on a South African passport, you still need to get a work visa in Australia with residence or New Zealand residence or permanent residence. It's not as simple. So, Jan, if you're looking at it, say the new pathways come through, okay, they've worked for 18 months and they got the residence. That's 5 years now that they've got to wait for citizenship. So that's about 6.5 years of contribution before they can even look at Australia.
Yeah. So I mean, grab them for another 2. Why not?
Well, look, I mean, you don't want to bind people, bond them, I should say, by that. But by the time that they do that, they're well settled in New Zealand. And the thing is, though, when people sort of move, it's quite a tough decision to make to move again to Australia. And Australia sometimes is not, the grass is not necessarily greener. You may get higher salaries, you may be able to afford a house, but the crime rate is also increasing as well, and so on. So, you've got to weigh up the pros and cons of what you want to do, and what's suitable for your family.
And houses ain't that cheap anymore. It's depending on where you
are. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you got to weigh it up. Rumor, as they say.
Yeah. So let me come back to the conference and some of the exciting changes that are coming through, okay? So I spoke about the trades and technicians, and then there's a skilled work experience that's coming through as well, where you need to show 5 years of work experience relevant in your field, and then you've got to work in New Zealand for 2 years. Now, that, again, I don't know how they are going to assess it, but that's what's coming, okay? So they've said that, so, you may expect some changes coming through with regards to that, okay?
Yep.
Now, they are going to move earlier next year where they spoke about the amber list and the red list. Okay, so that's, I think, the changes that they can make sooner. And those are occupations, like for instance, the red list, the occupations will not have a pathway to residence.
Okay.
But it would mean that they would be able to get maybe a 2-year or 3-year work visa. But again, those policies need to be released, and that will be sort of earlier in 2026. Now, one thing that's coming through on the 3rd of November is New Zealand is moving now officially to the National Occupation List, or NOL. Now, this is unique to New Zealand, and so we are amalgamating New Zealand occupations specific to New Zealand, and then we're also using ANSCO, if you've heard of ANSCO as well. So 91 roles are going through on the 3rd of November, and those 91 roles that are going to NOL mean that you can actually get an accredited employer work visa, but it's not applicable to residents on that skill level. So just be careful on that when it comes to those roles that have been announced as well.
So you won't be able to get residents on those roles, on those 91 roles?
Not at this point. They're saying that it's going to be a skill level 3 occupation, or maybe 1, 2, or 3. But it's not necessarily applicable to residents because residents will be using ANSCO. And if ANSCO says it's a skill level 4, that means you've got to earn a certain wage or all sorts of things. So there's a lot of complications coming through on those 91 roles. As always, yes. So if you're unsure, seriously speak to somebody about that. Also, one of the good things is a question was asked to the minister about children, and we know there's a lot of skilled people coming in, but they always sort of have reservations when they have children between the ages of 19 and 24, because once they finish school, they go on a visitor visa, they can't work, they can't and you can't include them on your visa as well. They've got to go back, stay there in South Africa, for example, and then come back to New Zealand and so on. So they are working on this. So I think they're working on the health criteria for these children, and then they're going to see how they're able to give maybe these children some work rights or something. I'm not too sure. They said that they know that this has always been an issue, and they're working on this. So that's good news. So hopefully that good news will come through soon, so those young adult children can be included in the appearance application coming through, and there'll be more skilled people coming through. People with considering.
I mean, Vanita, they can employ these kids at the fish and chip shop, and they can become the Prime Minister of New Zealand one day.
That's right. Yes.
It does happen in the past.
So talking about these young adults or young adult children, so if you have a residence application that you've applied for, and if they're 19 to 24 and they're on your visa, they actually, you can give them work rights. So work rights are changing now from 20 hours to 25 hours on the 3rd of November as well. Okay. So if children that are in school or they have residence lodged and they have 20 hours, they need to do a variation to get the 5 extra hours, so they get to 25 hours. So that's a good thing for these children. So just be aware of that as well.
That's really a good thing. I mean, that means that kids can really earn a bit more money and build something for their future.
Exactly. And they're also gaining some work experience while they're sort of waiting for residence, for example, or even during school holidays on the weekends, they can actually earn some money, build some work experience, so they know, okay, I'm going to study this, or, whatever, their career may end up being. Yeah. So what else? Let's see. English language. That was a big thing. Okay. Yeah. Look, the minister has not mentioned anything about it. I know there's been a lot of articles in the paper around English language and reducing the requirements because the investor categories have a reduced requirement, and why can't it be functional English for residents? Again, the minister, it's a hot topic right now, and she's not looking at it, and she hasn't mentioned anything further. Okay, so whatever's the requirement is what the requirement is for residents. Okay.
So somebody's saying, Lorette Claessen's saying, we received an email about that yesterday. I believe that would be about the kids one. There's also cost involved to change that visa.
which is
That's
the
with
very
everything else. So they want their
yes.
money.
Unfortunately, yes. So if you have 20 hours for children, there's a cost involved. If you don't vary those conditions, they can only work 20 hours. So it's up to you on what that cost is. But those going forward will get the 25 hours immediately if they're applying now. So just wait until the 3rd of November and then apply so you can get the full 25 hours. Sorry.
Yeah.
They are going to review the parent category ballot system, okay? Because there's a huge ballot. There's a cap or quota on the parent residence. So that is going to be in review, and that's going to be happening next year sometime.
All right.
Yep. So also they're reviewing the accredited employee work visa. They're trying to streamline it again and so on. So those are the things that they're doing.
Okay. So what does that mean for the average Joe?
Okay. If you are looking for a job and applying for jobs and you've applied for so many jobs and you're getting no responses, that's because job ads have decreased and there's a lot of applicants. So for every one job that's been advertised, there's about 600 applicants applying, and that's New Zealanders as well. And this is where the minister's saying, look, you need to really consider New Zealanders first before the offshore worker or the migrant worker. So the market is quite low at the moment in terms of jobs available. A lot of employers need people, but because of the economy, they sort of just managing with the staff that they have, and they're waiting for things to turn around, and that's where people are. So if you think about productivity, it's stagnant right now, Jan. If you think about and you're the one to best comment on this. People want to grow, they need to grow, but they're holding off because of the economy.
I've got a guy that employs any electrician I ever sent to him, and he's been doing this since the day that I moved to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And last week, for the first time, he said he's got no jobs for them anymore.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know when that will change. So, and
Yeah.
he's massive. He's massive. And I mean, if that guy is shrinking or not employing new staff, that means the market is saturated.
I mean, Jan, as an employer, you want to make sure you're taking care of your current staff, making sure you can employ, like you've got work for them, you can still pay the salaries and so on. You don't want to take on new people and then go, oh my God, I've got to make people redundant now, because that's not really what employers want to do, because people have families and they realize that. I mean, there's a lot of good employers out there that want to retain staff. The thing is, so with elections coming next year, it was mentioned that immigration is always a political football. It's the flavor of the day, what's going to win the votes, all sorts of things. So this is going to change. The thing is, though, with the current minister, she has stuck to her guns, Jan. She's talked about the parent, looking at parents and bringing them in for longer, and they've had the parent boost visa. She's also looked at changing. I mean, whatever she's spoken about before she became minister, they've stuck to their guns, and she's been true to her word. And I think with her, she's very transparent about what she says, and she wouldn't say something and then deviate from it, so she doesn't want to be that minister, so what she's saying now, I think you can actually trust the words that she's saying. It may change slightly, based on the things that are happening, but I think we can trust what's coming out. You can see it. Yeah. Are there any questions, Jan?
No, not really. I haven't received any questions from anybody.
Yeah.
Hanging on to your lips this morning.
So the thing is, for the audience out there, we know it's tough. Look, if you're in a job, just stay in that job, just work towards your residence and so on. With regards to changes for trades and so on, I know a lot of them are not earning the 1.3, they're not probably on the 10 occupations that were announced. Fingers crossed, if you are working towards your levels 4 or you've got a level 4, just hang on to that. Make sure you've got your academic transcripts. You've got everything to be able to send through to either NZQA or whoever's going to be assessing that to say, okay, this person has a level 4, they're earning the median wage or 1.1 or whatever that may be, and they have a pathway, And the thing is, with the new policies that would come, look, the government may look at and say, we'll look at this backward as well. In other words, if you've already been here, for instance, working for the last 3-4 years, we will look back and we will say, okay, you've gained your 18 months, now you can get your residence.
Yeah.
The one thing the government is very adamant on is those people that are in skill level 4 and 5 roles. There is no further visa extension. We are now looking at those people leaving New Zealand. Okay, so if you're not earning 1.5 of median wage and so on, you have no pathway to residence. Sadly, this is where everybody needs to start going, and we will see employers starting to release those people, and Immigration New Zealand are talking to employers about what they need to do. So you'll probably find that New Zealanders will maybe start taking on those roles, or and employers are probably going to realize that, look, they need to tap into the local market first. So bear in mind that's not going to change.
We've got a question. Watson asking, you mentioned qualifications are important, but would there be a pathway just based on experience as well?
We don't know. And this is usually, previously we used to go on the old point system for residents. It was recognized prior learning, and you needed to prove work experience, in your home country. We moved away from that. The minister was very adamant saying, we're not going back to the old skilled migrant category system. Okay. So when it comes to that, Gladine, I don't know whether, if you have no qualification, how they're going to look at this. So maybe if you are in that position, look at maybe seeing how you can get a level 4 qualification relevant to that work experience in New Zealand, and maybe vary that work visa to get some study options to be able to study towards a level 4.
And that will count while you are in New Zealand?
Correct. If it's a New Zealand qualification, it's a New Zealand qualification. And if it's a level 4 relevant to your job, then you don't need, it's a level 4. You don't need anything, to
so
prove.
If I've just got a normal job, a work visa, do I need to get another visa if I want to study part-time?
You do a variation. So you do a variation to allow you to study for 20 hours a week. But because the main purpose is to work, and the variation is just to vary to be able to study. So you can do that. So that's what I'm saying. So look at those options. And I can't talk about how those new pathways for trades and technicians will look like until that policy comes through. But they are saying level 4 is a minimum.
All right. So once we know that minimums and stuff, we'll have another chat to tell everybody.
Which will be next year sometime. But what I'm saying is, if you have a level 4, and currently there's no pathway, you're not earning the remuneration and so on, make sure you are prepared. You're getting your transcripts from South Africa. You're getting the verification done from those institutes and so on, because NZQA have changed the way they verify it. You need a letter from those institutes. Make sure you're doing all that paperwork so that when this is announced, you can actually go send your qualifications in and know you've got that pathway already locked in.
And the things is up and running.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no time wasting. Okay.
Any last wise words?
Look, with the parent boost visa, Jan, you and I have done some work around that, and we know that the insurance is really, really high. And I mean, like, you're looking at minimum 7,000 per year. Is that correct, Jan?
That's correct. And the problem is, the older the parent, the less cover we can get for them.
Yeah.
That makes it even worse. So I would say at the end of the day, the older parents won't be able to come.
Yeah.
So, but I do understand, and sorry about if your parents are old, like mine is old. I do understand where New Zealand comes from. Because that's going to be a burden on our current health system, which is already a burden, or burdened, if you want to call it that. So I do understand where that comes from. But the problem is, we can't get insurance for those people over 80. We really struggle to get the right insurance for them.
Yeah. So the thing is, when we had our webinar with immigration as well, they said that there are other options for parents. So if you're a citizen or resident, you can look at the parent, the parent grandparent visa. So they can stay for 6 months, in each of the years. And in fact, they can stay for a full 18 months, provided that you break up those 6-month periods and go away and come back again. So they can do that while they may be looking at the parent residence category. Okay.
So they can have 2 visas, basically. Or am I wrong here?
They can have, when you're saying they can have a residence application in, because it's a different category while they're in the ballot system, but they can have the parent grandparent temporary visa while they're waiting for that. Yeah.
Okay. So they can have both, or apply for one and have the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
One very important thing now that has slipped my mind, Jan.
Old age. Call it old age.
No, I remember now. Okay. So if you have problems, yes, and Jan, yes, it's actually the age of perimenopause. Okay.
Hot flushes.
Syndrome. Okay. Mariska and I can talk. Okay. One important thing is, if you're struggling to get your police certificate, okay, and you need to produce a police certificate for your temporary visa, okay, either the maximum continuous stay where going from 3 years to getting the full 5 years, and if you're having problems and your application is going to expire, immigration are looking at this. They haven't come up with this, where you can submit the application without the police certificate. But it's very important. If you submit an application without a police certificate, be aware that you will be getting a shorter visa. That shorter visa comes with issues, and that shorter visa means that you're getting a visa for 2 years or under. And what that means is, and Jan knows this, okay, you are not covered for health under the public health system. So be very aware that if that's going to happen, that's the consequences of it. And the policy is going to come out where they're going to make changes kind of soonish, or either this year or early next year. Okay. So be very aware of that. All right. So that's me. Yeah.
Vanita, thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody.
I think half an hour just pops by too quickly when we're on the chat. So yeah.
Sham says I don't stop talking. That's the problem.
That is right. What is his problem? All right, I'm gonna love and leave you guys. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Or actually, next week we'll be back at home. So yeah. All right. Thanks, Vanita. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.